Looking at today, talking about sales presentations, we've got to talk about how you can approach potential customers, the right kind of things that are going to open up a conversation, the right types of things, the right ways to speak during a conversation. And then we're going to talk about what you should be doing during your first encounter, your second encounter, and things like that. So right off the bat, looking at this, if you are approaching a potential client, like during your first encounter with someone, you should obviously always be introducing yourself by name, try to get to learn their name and let them know that you are there to enhance their experience. I don't know, I was thinking about this morning. This usually never translates very well because I end up like goofing it up. But let me see if I can find this. I wanted to see if I could find this because I saw it this morning, or I saw it this weekend. Oh yeah, sure enough. Okay, so I don't know if anybody in here, I hope everybody in here has seen this incredible movie. If you've ever seen this movie, it's called The Princess Bride. Anybody ever see this? Radio silence. Nobody in the whole class has seen The Princess Bride.
What is it called again? My dog keeps barking. What is it called again?
The Princess Bride.
Oh yes, I've seen it.
So it's a comedy, right? Like it's a very, 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 very funny movie. And it sounds kind of like high fantasy, and it kind of is, but it's meant to be sort of not a parody, but just its own very funny movie. But there's this character that I think is really funny here, and he always says through the whole movie, he's like, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. And someone was talking about how this is a networking success. It's like it starts with a polite greeting, it introduces your name, that talks about the relevant personal link that you have to this person, and then you manage their expectations about like what's going to happen next. Prepare to die, and this is the perfect guide to opening a conversation with like another person, which is really funny because this actually applies very, very well. So the first thing you should be doing, introduce yourself by name, right? Then if you can, like, talk about like the relevant connection that you have to this person. If you're working at a gym, right? Obviously the relevant connection that you have is that you are there to enhance their experience, right? Like you are there to answer any questions that they might have related to like any of the fitness equipment or exercises. Then you want to you manage their expectations and say like, so if what can happen next, we can set up a fitness assessment, we can do, we can talk a little bit further, or if you gave them advice on like a specific exercise, it's like, so this should help lead to, X, Y, and Z down the road, right? So managing expectations, which is really the big thing I want to talk about. Managing expectations is a skill that you really want to try to develop, not only just for the sake of like being better at sales, but it's also going to make you a much better communicator, right? So I always tell people, that should be a part of every single fitness assessment that you do. Whenever someone walks through the door for their very first fitness assessment, you should start managing their expectations from the start. And so what I mean by that, like managing expectations, right? People are going to have some type of expectation as to what their fitness assessment is for, how it's going to go, like, what's going to go down, right? They're going to have sort of an idea of, what type of things like you are going to cover in this fitness assessment, or maybe they're going to have an idea of like what they think the fitness assessment is for. So what you want to do is you want to take those expectations that they have and either confirm them or alter them based on like the reality of the situation. So I love it right when somebody walks through the door, it'll be somebody walks in, they're here for their fitness assessment. I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? My name is Brad. I'm going to be your trainer today. I'm going to learn their name, right? I will know their name because obviously this is an appointment that I have. They knew my name as well because obviously, again, it's a preset appointment. But but like I love to take people like straight over to, you know, the area where I can sit down with them before we start going through like the PAR-Q, before we start going through the general medical history questionnaire. And I like to start the conversation by saying, so here's what we're going to do today, right? We're going to start here at the desk. I want to have you do a little bit of paperwork just to make sure that it's safe for you to exercise today, and to make sure that I can learn a little bit about like your exercise background, nutrition, what your goals are, things like that. General medical history. Okay. Then we're going to gather a little bit of information just physiologically about your body. We're going to get your scale weight. We're going to get your resting heart rate, blood pressure if I happen to do it. Although I don't, that's pretty rare. I don't do that one very often. And then after that, we'll go ahead and move over and do a couple movement assessments. Well, that's going to tell me a little bit about like how your body moves through specific ranges of motion, whether or not you have any overactive or underactive muscles that need to be addressed through, you know, stretching techniques or strengthening techniques so that we can kind of draw you into ideal posture, get any of the aches and pains to go away. Then I want to do a cardiovascular assessment where we can see how your heart rate's working. That way I can write for you a very effective cardiorespiratory routine that's catered specifically to you and your body. And then eventually, like, we're going to come back here, kind of summarize everything up, and we're going to whip you up like a very simple program that'll be a little bit easier for you to follow. And then we can talk about the possibility of, you know, you're welcome to take that program and, you know, start working on it and start using it. Or we can talk about the possibility of me coaching you through like further personal training. And that was kind of a long-winded version of usually how I go. I mean, I'd say, what, I was probably talking for probably 90 seconds there. I'd probably try to get it down. I'd try to get it down to about 60 seconds or less. But basically, that is an example of managing someone's expectations, right? Like they think, you know, if they are coming into the gym and they don't really know what to expect, they don't really know what's going to happen during our training sessions. During our fitness assessment, I want them to sort of have an idea of what's going to go down. So I'm going to break it down for them and try to make it as clear as possible. Okay. So that's the first thing you want to do. Introduce yourself, learn their name, let them know that you're there to enhance their experience, and then try to manage their expectations as best you can. And this can be, you know, when I say potential customers, this could absolutely be someone who has an appointment with you, you know, and they are coming to the gym to like, you know, do their very first fitness assessment. Or this same approach could absolutely be applied to a potential customer on the gym floor that you're walking around, you know, you're walking around, maybe picking up weights, or just answering questions. You know, if someone, if you are like approaching a potential customer that doesn't have a personal trainer and you know that, you know, you can go up to them and again, apply the same process, right? Introduce yourself by name, get to know their name, let them know that you're there to enhance their experience, and then try to manage their expectations afterwards, right? So let them know that you are there to enrich their needs, right? You're there to enhance their experience. But what you should try to avoid doing this is the slight difference that we have here. What you want to try to avoid doing with like potential customers that you are approaching out of the blue versus potential customers that are there for a fitness assessment. The ones that are there for a fitness assessment, educate away, guys. Try to educate them as much as you can, actually, because it's a really effective tool in personal training. It's a really effective way to, you know, get someone to see the value of like your services, right? Like that's my favorite thing, right? I love educating people. And so, you know, you know, giving someone the answers that they've been kind of hunting for a little bit while is very rewarding for me. And I think that comes through during my fitness assessments and shows my potential clients are like, oh, wow, this guy's really excited to, you know, kind of work and, you know, convey all this different types of knowledge and stuff. And so, they can see that I'm really into it. They want to work with me afterwards, right? But if it is somebody that you are approaching out of the blue, right? In that case, try to avoid try to avoid educating them like right off the bat a little bit too much, just because you don't really have enough rapport built with this person, and you are trying to, really just kind of open up your relationship, and you can build upon that later. If you're in your first interaction with someone and they ask you a question, yeah, absolutely answer that question, 100%. But don't apply, and we're going to see this question here in just a second. Do not apply the technique of, ooh, let me show you the right way to do that. Or, if you see someone doing something, can I show you a better way on how to do that exercise? It makes people, it sort of opens people in a like a negative way. And so it's less likely to turn into a full conversation. You're not going to have a very easy time fostering that relationship. Now, once you've built a little bit of rapport, right? Like this, the first time you've ever talked to someone, if you see this person again, and this is the thing, guys, sales is an ongoing process. You should be doing this kind of stuff. This is why, you should be working the gym floor pretty consistently so that people get to know your face and your name. They get to kind of be familiar with like who you are. That's where kind of step 2 comes in. So once you've built a little bit of rapport, now you're in a position to actually, give them advice, offering like specific assistance, right? So maybe you can ask them what it is they're trying to, achieve, like what their goals are, right? It's like, hey, well, tell me like, why are you doing this? Like, if you're doing like a lot of upper body work, like what's your goal with that, right? And it's like, well, I just want to get ready for beach season or whatever. It's like, okay, great. Or what you can do is you can say, well, if you're interested, you're more than welcome to set up, if you'd like to do like a fitness assessment, I can learn a little bit more about like how you move. I can learn a little bit more about like, what's going on with your body. And then I can be able to like much more effectively, and then here we go, we're correlating it to our goals here, to give you the types of advice, like when someone asks me, which is this, and this is how a lot of people like frame stuff. I'm sure you guys will know what I mean when I say this, but like oftentimes when people ask for fitness advice, they don't ask you, so what works, they don't say like, what type of exercises should I be doing? How many reps, how many sets? That's actually very rarely how people frame things. Instead, what you'll often hear is people say, which rep range is best? They'll often say like, which exercise is best? They'll say, which cardio is best? People always, it's so funny. People, especially in like health and wellness, I feel like people always want like the pro tips, before they have like foundational knowledge. Right. And it's one of those things where like someone said this and I was like, that's so simple, but it's also so profound. It's like pro tips are for the pros, like once you are sort of like plateauing, or once you have like you get to a certain level of knowledge, the pro tips, like the little tiny extra tips, are things that, yeah, they might give you just a little bit of an edge. They're there. It's the salt and pepper on an already nutritious meal. But that's not really how people, like, I don't know. I just feel like we don't really live in a world where we communicate that way anymore. A lot of people are just like, what's the best version of this? And it's like, well, they're all very, very good for you. The best version for you specifically would be doing something, X, Y, and Z. So we can correlate their goals to the OPT model, right? We can say, okay, you say you want to work on this. Well, if you make this slight adjustment in the way that you're performing that exercise, this could be much more effective for you, One of the ones I run into a lot is people who do like a lot of lateral raises or like front raises with their shoulders, right? They're doing like, they're trying to build out like their shoulder and stuff. And they'll complain about like shoulder clicking. And they'll feel this sort of like almost, this impingement in their shoulder there. And so I'll just give them the slight adjustments. Like, well, we could just try to do like a scaption movement instead. So, take your palm instead of palm down, go, into a sort of a thumb up position. And then instead of going out at the side or at the front, you're just going to split the difference. So palms up, go halfway in between, and go at this sort of Y angle here. And that's going to be a little bit safer for the shoulder. It doesn't target that outside part of the shoulder as effectively, but it can strengthen the parts of your shoulder that are going to make you move much more effectively, which in the end, like you'll be able to do actual lateral raises eventually, and they'll be much more effective for you because you'll be able to lift heavier, you'll be able to lift properly, and you'll experience that growth that you're looking for. So when you are talking to your potential clients, right, like you can definitely in your first session get to know them, let them know that you're there to enhance their experience. In your second session, let them know that you are there as an expert to help guide them and give them the types of advice that they need, and then maybe set it up for like a potential fitness assessment. If they say yes right then and there, great, you can just move straight forward through your traditional sort of assessment sales process, right? But we got to be a little cautious here because we're trying to foster this relationship, right? I know it seems kind of weird to explain, to describe like a us meeting with a stranger as a relationship, but yeah, you have a relationship with every member in the gym. Like you both share common interests, and you both share like a connection between like they are members at a gym, you are staff at the gym, right? That's very much like you have a connection to every person in there, but what we need to do is we need to foster that connection and make it strong enough to where we can get to have like a one-on-one conversation and offer our more advanced services to this person, build in enough value and get them to sort of partake in that value, right? So the things that you need to be aware of is like any other relationship, there are things you should avoid doing, right? You can disagree in a relationship, but you should not personally attack the other person, right? Like these are all for any of you who have like significant others out there, you're like, yeah, well, that sounds very true. Like it is absolutely okay to be on the different sides of things. What we don't want to do is make one person feel unintelligent or small or anything like that, right? So what you want to do is, and you got to be a little cautious here, you want to avoid challenging your potential clients' beliefs in such a way that makes you come off as like judgmental. So may I make a suggestion? This one I think is actually kind of innocuous. Like I put it in here as an example, but like I think as far as the examples go, this is the one that I think is the least offensive. I think you could still actually get away with this if you already have like a conversation with this person. But I will also say you don't have to ask that question and put somebody on edge. You can just make the suggestion, like you don't have to like, it's kind of like, I was explaining to my roommate the other day. My roommate does this thing. He's a very, 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 very busy person. So he often needs like a lot of small favors and he will text you when he needs a small favor in one of two ways. He'll text you, say like, hey man, and then like, that's all he'll send. Or be like, hey buddy, or something like that. And it's like, that like that's the opening to like an ask. That's 100% like that's what he does. Or he'll do this thing where he'll go, hey, with like a bunch of E's and a bunch of extra Y's, man, like, and it's like, go for what do you need? Like this could have been one text message, like and I always give him a hard time about it. It's very obvious when you need like a favor. So now and this drives him a little crazy, whenever he sends me one of those types of I immediately just respond with, what do you need? And it's like very cold, it's very blunt, and it's mostly meant to kind of put him on edge and kind of be funny, but that immediately puts me a little bit on edge because I know that like it's like I know like a favor is coming, which I'm always happy to do. Like for me, it's often like he's like, can you just feed the dogs or take them outside or something? I'm in a meeting and I can't take the dogs out. It's always such a tiny itty bitty small favor. So I'm always, always, always happy to do it. Not just willing. I'm stoked. I'm stoked to help my buddy out. But like, it's so funny because I do that now. And there is a part of me that like immediately makes an assumption based on like the type of text message I'm receiving. When you have like a potential customer and you say these phrases here, these kind of no phrases, you have great intentions, right? Like, may I make a suggestion, is the intention behind it is like you're trying to help somebody out and educate them on like a better way to do something, right? But it puts people on edge because now these people are going to go, it's like, well, what do you think? I don't know what I'm doing? Or like, they're going to go, oh, you're a know-it-all, like it just makes people feel uncomfortable. So we have kind of some better ways to frame things instead. We also don't want to say, getting through a couple of these, this I'd say is one of the worst ones. Let me show you the right way to do that. This is definitely not how you want to approach someone. Be like, ooh, you suck at that exercise. Let me show you the right way to do it. Yeah, no, that's not going to come off as well. You're not a great way to start building a relationship. Um, what's your goal with that exercise? That's another one that I think can be like a little innocuous. Like if you're asking someone like what their goals are, I think that's fine. But yeah, if you're saying something like, well, what are you trying to do with that? Like if you say something like that, just again, it kind of comes off as judgmental. It just makes people's, it makes the hair on the back of their neck stand up a little bit and they're like immediately on edge. Not a great way for you to start like a potential sale. So instead, something that's going to be a lot more effective is learning how to ask open-ended questions. So this, by the way, is some information that is testable. I actually had questions like this on my exam decades ago. It feels like years ago when I took my personal training exam, and then also recently when I did my recertification, the information came back, and I was like, that's funny because I'm going to give a lecture on this in a couple days. But one of the things you want to do is you want to learn how to ask open-ended questions. These are questions that engage your customer in dialogue, not the types of questions that can be answered with yes or no answers. So to give you an example, right? If I said, hey, Thomas, do you like doing shoulder exercises?
Yeah.
Cool. What a wonderful conversation we just had. Right? Like a little brief, right? Like that's not really a conversation. That's a fortune cookie. Like, instead, if I said something like, hey Thomas, what's your favorite, what's probably like your favorite exercise in the whole gym? Like what's your favorite to do that you feel really accomplished when you're done?
I'd say my favorite exercise would have to be the deadlift.
Deadlifting? Why do you like the deadlift so much?
It's I just feel like it works so much of the body out in one exercise.
Hey, you're not wrong. Very true. But we see like how this leads to a much longer conversation, right? Like it's like when you ask like why ... that leaves a much greater, there's a big runway for a conversation to happen now, right? So open-ended questions are the types of questions that engage your customer in conversation. I always feel like this is just a joke, but I always feel like whenever I'm teaching this part of the lecture, it's like dating 101. Like if you're on a first date with someone, these are the types of questions you want to ask, like not your closed-ended, like, conversation doesn't go anywhere questions. The type of questions that are actually going to sort of engage this person in, like, sort of lead to a long story, or, something funny, or an anecdote, or, something that gets them talking about like their passions, what they're excited, what excites them. So these are going to be really great for engaging in conversation. And then here's the most important part, and this right here, key sentence was why it's underlined. Open-ended questions are going to help the trainer understand the true motivations behind your client. So one of the things that I've run into so many times before is people who will come to me and they'll have like a weight loss goal. And so I'll say, something kind of similar to this, where I'll say like, well, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? Or like, I'm here to lose 20 pounds. Like, well, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? And it's like, well, I want to look good in this dress for my daughter's wedding, and it's like, okay, great. So what you really, so it's like, yeah, they want to lose 20 pounds, but their motivations are much deeper than that. They want to show that, they want to look good and feel confident, and and they kind of want to show off like their hard work at this, special event, right? They want to be, there's gonna be a lot of pictures there. They want to be immortalized. Yeah. My friends just said that to me yesterday. I have a friend who is visiting this weekend, and no, 2 days ago. I have a friend who was visiting 2 days ago, and you know, she recently started working out, and she's looking really, really good. She's like, I'm down to my weight loss goal. I feel really good. But now, and then she like pulled up this picture of this dress that she's going to be wearing to this event. She's like, I've got 6 months to kind of get ready. And I want to, I want to like get the arms toned up for this, for wearing this dress. And so it's like, I don't know, it's like a thing without, it stops like right here. And so she's like, I'd love to get like the collarbone more defined. And I was like, okay, like that's a specific goal. I love that. So you can get to the heart of like what their true motivations are when you ask open-ended questions, right? What's important to you in a training regimen, right? Like if you say like, why'd you come to the gym? What brought you to the gym today, or what's important to you when it comes to training? People are going to say, well, I'm here because I like working out. Okay, great. Like that one's easy. Or they could say like, I just need someone to push me, right? And it's like, so, getting to the heart of their true motivations, like, yeah, they're there to like reach their goals just like anybody else is, but they are really worried about the accountability side of working out, right? They want to make sure that they are, being pushed consistently. So now we're kind of getting to the heart of, really what's important. There we go. So now that you have a little bit more of a clear idea of what their true motivations are, we can start building a little bit of value into what our services are as we offer them to this person, right? So the value of what we're selling needs to outweigh the cost that they are investing. And this is the principle of every sale that you've ever participated in, every sale that anyone's ever participated in. There needs to be more value than the cost. Now, here's the thing. The cost is not just the price. And I know it's for me, like I'm not a very wealthy person. I didn't grow up very wealthy. So a lot of times, like when I think of cost, yeah, I'm a very cheap person to this day. I don't spend a lot of money. And so like that is sort of ingrained in me. So yeah, a lot of times like when I am considering things, I do consider like the price. That's the cost that I often consider. But sometimes it's also like the time or the level of effort, like for instance, like, price isn't the only thing that I consider. For instance, let's say I usually shop at Trader Joe's. That's kind of the most common place that I will often go. But let's just say there's a cheaper restaurant, there's a cheaper grocery store. There's we'll say it's another Trader Joe's, and it is up in Reseda, right? Which is not too far from where I'm at. I mean, I'm in Van Nuys. Reseda is probably like a, I don't know, 20, 25-minute drive. Not that bad. But I'll tell you this, if it's only saving me like $5 a week on groceries, I'm probably not going to take the effort to drive up there, So now like cost is not the same as price, this is what we need to consider, right? It's sometimes it is the price, absolutely, but sometimes it's the time or the level of effort, it's like I'm willing to pay a little bit more, for this if I get that. Or sometimes it's like a level of commitment. Sometimes people are just really afraid to commit to things and sign up for a gym membership or sign up for training because they just don't want to be tied down to any specific contracts or tied down to any specific commitments, right? So they could be nervous about those things. So there's a lot of different costs out there, but it doesn't matter what the costs are. Oh, here's another one, by the way, fear of failure. That's a big cost sometimes. People are often afraid to fail, or more toxically, sometimes people are afraid to succeed. That's always scary to run into. Hard to work with, but it'll happen sometimes. But fear of failure is a major deterrent as well. And so like, these are big costs that people are seeing. And one thing that I always talk about, this is me getting on my sort of motivational speaker perch here, my little soapbox, but like human beings are better than any other animal in the animal kingdom at forecasting. We are so good at looking down the road and seeing like what our potential possible future is. And then we also are very, very good at, on that road, seeing every one of the obstacles that we're going to run into along the way. And a lot of times people will see those obstacles on the road, and it'll get so overwhelming that they decide to never start whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. Like let's say someone's trying to, quit smoking, right? Which, cigarettes are an incredibly addictive substance, that are we all know that it's bad for us. Like it's so funny to me. Not funny. It's honestly actually very frustrating to me. When someone when I see like a teenager smoking or something, or just like someone like my age even, like I don't know the experience of people who are like older than me for the most part, I don't know what their experience was, but I know that myself and anyone younger than me in school, like the science is out on smoke. We know it's bad for us, like my parents grew up seeing ads where it's like, yeah, like literally like cigarettes used to be like endorsed by doctors back in the day. Like it's a great way to de-stress after a long day, it's like, okay, that's clearly not true, but whatever. So I get it, when like someone like my parents' age is like smoking, it's like I get it, like this is a habit you've had for a long time, and there's a lot of bad information, but it amazes me that anyone would smoke in 2021 when we know the information's out there, right? Like this isn't debatable, right? Like we all know exactly how bad it is for us. And so like but what happens is people will be like, I know I need to quit. Like, I know. Like that's what you'll often see people do. It's like, okay, well, if you know, then what are you going to do about it? It's like, I don't want to get started because I don't want to fail. And like, also like, it's really hard. And it's like, we are so good at looking at our goal down the road and seeing all of the things that are along the way, like we're incredible at that. And so when we see those obstacles, sometimes it seems so overwhelming that we just don't even get started. When it comes to working out, people are like, you have to work out every day. You have to do this. And it's like, well, first off, like let's walk that back a little bit. You don't necessarily have to work out every day. You just need to be physically active every day. You need to make sure that like you have like a good energy budget. If you're trying to like lose weight, you just need to make sure that you're in a calorie deficit, whether that's through burning lots of calories or consuming very few calories. As long as you are expending more than you are burning, like weight loss is going to happen, like physiologically. Sometimes it can be like, well, like I'm worried about like getting fit because like, there's just so many, I know that like my schedule is really busy and this and that. It's like, but here's the thing, guys. Here's the good news about all of this, right? Like no matter how good people are at making excuses, and these are excuses, and I don't mean that in an ugly way. Sometimes people are so harsh about how they talk about like excuses. Excuses they can be valid. It's it's possible, like, but when someone makes up like a bunch of excuses for like, it costs too much in the price, the amount of time is, they don't have enough time, they don't have, the level of effort is daunting, they just don't think they can do it, or the level of commitment, they're just like, I'm not sure I could commit to something like this. No matter what any of their excuses are, if you build enough value into your personal training and you build enough value into what you are trying to sell this individual, they will purchase it. Every sale in the entire universe, in the entire history of humankind, that has been lost, right? Or any sale that didn't happen, happened because there wasn't enough sufficient value built into the sale. Throughout the whole of human history, every sale that's ever been occurred. Every single one. So here's the thing. We need to find a way to build value into our sales, right? So I had a really cool, and by the way, just, I know we're talking about sales today and sometimes people get a little comfortable with this. I had a really cool experience one time at this gym that I only worked at very briefly. I honestly didn't like working there. And when I don't like something, I usually I'm like, so I was only there like a couple months. I was like, this place isn't for me. But while I was there, I was on the training department, and the entire training department had to do sales. And our boss, who he was like the owner's son, he was really he had just gotten his master's in so and something about sales. And he was so just obsessed with sales. He loved the art of the sale and stuff like that. And ugh, we don't talk about that, but like he loved like selling. And he sent our entire team, he sent all the trainers to this like sales conference. It was like a Marriott hotel or something. You go into this all these chairs set up, and there's a guy up on stage, and he's just like chatting about stuff. And it's so fun. I feel like I didn't learn very much at that conference. I didn't have a great time. Like I said, I was kind of I was like already on my way out the door of this company, but there was one moment that I loved talking about in this class. And this guy was going around the rooms. It was this early on too. He's going around the room. And he's like, what do you sell? And they're like, I sell dental implants. And he's like, what do you sell? And it's like, I sell this. And what do you sell? Personal training. And he looks at this one guy, and this is the moment that I really latched onto that I really loved. He was like, what do you sell? And he's like, I sell safety. And the guy up on stage is kind of like, brr, like, he's like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, I mean, like, I sell cars. He's like, I'm a car salesman, but like, a couple years back, I was in a really horrific accident with my family. I was driving, and my wife and my kids were in the car, and we rolled our car, and thank goodness we all walked away. And he's like, and we walked away because we had these side airbags, we had analog. I have no idea what would say. Probably just a lot of airbags. He's like, it was very safe frame and like this and that. He's like, and so like because we were driving this specific vehicle, like it saved my family's life. And he's like, so I started learning more about like all of the safety features. This guy it's a car salesman. He like learned about like advances in seatbelt technology and airbag technology, analog brakes, like all of these different things. He like learned all of this stuff. And he's like, and now when someone approaches me, that's what I'm selling them. Like I'm selling them the safest car that I can, that's going to protect them on the road, that, in case something ever goes wrong, because I want to make sure that more people have that. And I was like, this is the guy, like you get up on stage, like you lead this, like, because that's us, right, guys? Like we're not here to sell personal training sessions, right? I mean, you have to sell personal training sessions to be able to do your job, but that's not what we're here for, right? I didn't become a personal trainer to sell personal training sessions. I became a personal trainer because I want to help people, right? And I have to make sure that they have sessions in order to be able to do that. I want this whole world that we live in to be healthier. I would love it. I mean, I know you guys are here studying this thing right now, and this sounds bad, but like I would love it if there was no need for personal trainers anymore. Like if this industry just didn't need to exist because like we just had a world of healthy people. I would love that. That would be great. I try to convey that to my clients as often as possible. I want my clients to be as knowledgeable as I am. That's why I eventually got into teaching, is because the idea that like I get to help you guys go out there and help more people is really exciting to me. You've all been infected. And now, healthy attitudes and effective training methods are hopefully going to spread out and infect more people, that's what sales are, guys. You need to figure out like what your motivating factor is. And if you do that awkwardness of like, oh, I don't want to like inconvenience this person, I don't know what their budget looks like, I don't know this, is going to be very easy for you to sort of overcome, because like we know that like we are building up individuals. We're making people better, right? We're making them, we're helping them find the best versions of themselves, right? So like I said, most of your potential sales are lost. The biggest one is because not enough value is built into the sale. All right, this is a weird example of like just not enough value for something. My friend Evan just got married, and on his registry, she was his fiance at the time, but now his wife, they got into a big argument about this toaster that was on their freaking registry. and it was like $150 toaster or something like that. And it was like, how much for a it was like, does it get cable? Does it get satellite TV? Like, is it also a body fat scale? Like, what could, like, there's no world. I was just thinking this to myself. I was like, there's no world in which I would ever spend, like, you can get toasters on the top rack of a grocery store for like $20, like, I was like, there's no world that I would ever spend that much money on a toaster. I also don't make that much toast. So like, there's just not enough value built into, but I'll bet you if someone was to say like, well, this toaster also does your taxes, I'd be like, well, hold on, that's interesting. Like, well, now there's a lot of value built into this thing because I hate doing my taxes, right? Like, you build enough value into anything, it will sell. And that is true of your personal training as well. If someone says like, I don't have enough time, and you're like, well, we're gonna, that's part of what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about how to get you on the schedule. We're gonna talk about like how to make it easier and more approachable for you to find time. Now you're building in value, right? And they go, oh, I thought that this was just about working out. I didn't know you were gonna help me with my time management skills. Yeah, build the value then, right? Maybe somebody comes and they're just like, oh, I know, I get really distracted. I just don't know how to stay on task. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm here for. I mean, I'm here for accountability. We're gonna do regular check-ins. You're gonna reach out to me when you're having those days that are really like tough when it comes to motivation. I'm gonna be in your corner, and I'm gonna I'm gonna give you the push you need to get into the gym. It's like, well, they go, okay, hold on, that's interesting, right? They're like, again, I thought I was just signing up for a couple training sessions. I didn't know like I was going to have someone. Yeah, I didn't know I was hiring a cheerleader. Like someone who's there to like really be in my corner. We're trying to build value, right? Now there are a couple other like very surface things that also might not lead to a very effective sale. It could be like insufficient rapport. If you don't know this person, like they don't trust you. Remember, guys, rapport, right? It's the level of trust someone has in another individual, right? Like when I, say something, hopefully through our interactions and conversations every day, we have pretty sufficient rapport. If you guys tell me something, oh, hey, Dalen, we can hear your TV edit.
Well, Skip, he's not in the NFC.
Oh,
and I think that
Dalen.
was one of the main things that they.
All right, I'm gonna mute you. So when hopefully like through our interactions, like we have like sufficient rapport. If you guys were to tell me something, I would believe it because I trust you guys. And hopefully that's a two-way street. Hopefully it goes the other level as well. You got a new client, if they don't have any reason to trust you because you haven't built enough rapport, that could absolutely cause like a loss of sales. I'm trying to buy this freaking house right now. I'm trying to build this house right now, and the sales guy for it is just like totally like uncommitted, and I'm like this close to just like calling in and be like, I want a different salesperson. Like this guy's just not. I don't trust him. I think he's lazy. Like, he could be busy, but like he hasn't like conveyed to me. He's just not very good at communicating, and it's like I'm just we don't have enough. I don't have enough like personal attachment to this guy to care enough to want to keep working with him because we haven't built enough rapport. Sorry, not sorry. There's also like if they didn't affirmatively ask for the sale, this is a huge one, guys. A lot of sales are lost because people simply didn't ask for it. There used to be when they were first doing gyms. There's this book. If you guys ever want to pick this up, we actually have copies of it at Sochi. If you ever want to borrow one, How to Sell Personal Training. There's a little booklet right here. Yeah, selling personal training. Very simple. But this guy Ron Thatcher, he was very much he was kind of instrumental in a lot of the early days of like, I think it was Gold's Gym, which was really like Gold's was like one of the first like very commercialized gyms, and then 24 came along and another one's out there. But this guy, he worked around like a lot of different places, and this book's a little old, like this book's over 10 years old, but he would work with gyms on their selling techniques. And so you know, figuring out like little scripts to say and things like that. You know, what worked, what didn't. And one of the things that he talks about is this concept right here, not affirmatively asking for the sale. And he talks about this story about how when they had people who had that really bad habit about not asking for the sale, um, they would play a game where they would do like a little role playing activity, and they had to ask for the customer's credit card information within like 10 sentences or something like that. And it was like something that they had to do as soon as they got like, does that sound good? And they said, you know, the customer said yes or something. They had to like practice. All right, well, here you go. Here's 6 packages. Let's get that credit card information out. Let's go right now. You know, like, and basically like it was an activity. Like, I didn't recommend, but like they saw as soon as they started practicing that activity, all of their numbers went up. And it was because they just got better at like actually asking for the sale. Sometimes I'm guilty of this. I think this is something I struggle with. Sometimes I will spend so much time building rapport because I love having conversations with people. I will start to get like wrapped up into a conversation with someone so much that that becomes like the focus of like it becomes like my, you know, lizard brain's goal, you know, like the back of my brain's like, all right, well, we're just going to keep having a fun conversation with this person. And it's like, what are we here for again? Oh my God, that's right. I'm here to help this person. Like, I need to get them training sessions, you know, and I'll, for, you know, so I won't affirmatively ask because I'll sometimes like lose my focus a little bit. And then occasionally, guys, sometimes your customer may legitimately not have the ability to pay. It'll happen sometimes, you know. Sometimes somebody's just not going to have sufficient funds for, you know, personal training, but there are other options out there, right? There's group exercise, there's small group training, duo sessions. There's a lot of different ways that you know, you can adjust the price point of the services that you are offering. And this is why we want to have a, we talked about this on Friday, right? We want to have a depth to our product line. So not enough value, insufficient rapport, sometimes too much rapport. You're not affirmatively asking for the sale, or, you know, the customer legitimately just, you know, doesn't have the ability to pay. Sometimes that'll happen. But I stand by what I said. If you build enough value into what you are offering, people will find a way to pay for it every single time, you know. Like right now, I mean, honestly, like I said, I'm trying to work on my first sort of investment property right now. And it's a bad time. This is not, like, when it comes down to it, not a great time to build a freaking house. The price of lumber is out of control. Buying a house right now is crazy difficult. You know, the guy I was just talking about with the crazy toaster who got married, he's a real estate agent. And, you know, he's helping people buy homes. He's the real estate agent that you hire to help, you know, buy a home. And I mean, in LA right now, people are at, you know, they're putting like $100,000 over asking price just to be considered part of a conversation. It's crazy. It's a crazy time right now. But like, people see the value, you know, in like purchasing a home because like, you know, the property value is going to continue going up. So, you know, like me right now, like, yeah, like they just told us this house that we're trying to build, it's going to be about 10 grand more expensive than it was supposed to be. And that's still enough, you know, there's still enough value in it that I am going to say, and we're going to still keep moving forward. Now, if it was $100,000 more than it was supposed to be, the conversation could be very different. Like, well, it's not worth enough to keep moving forward. We're going to have to, you know, pursue a different option. So if you build enough value into something, you know, the sale will happen for you. So the conversation is going to make a hard pivot here. Do we have any comments, questions, or concerns about any of that? How you guys feeling so far?
Good.
It's good.
Yeah. Is anybody feeling a little itchy talking about sales? Anybody like kind of nervous about the idea of doing sales?
Yeah, I am because I'm the rejecter. I'm used to, like, I don't like when people start trying to sell me stuff. So I don't know how well I'm gonna do.
And look, I hear you. You know, we've grown up in like a culture of like salespeople, you know. And generally, like culturally, salespeople are willing to do anything to get a sale, right? Like they're willing to lie and cheat and steal, they're to do whatever they have to do to get you to buy something, right? And so it can feel very uncomfortable to sort of at all even associate with a group of people who are doing that. But that's like you just have to remember, like that's not what we are here for, right? Like I felt the same way, Lori, and I was very similar. This is why actually when I was looking, I could have worked at 24-hour fitness as well. That's where my first gym membership actually was. First gym membership I ever had besides the one at my school was 24-hour fitness. And I decided to, I did a little research and was like, oh no, I think I'm gonna go to LA Fitness. And I went to LA Fitness because I knew they didn't have to do sales. They have like a sales team that does it, and then they hand the clients to the trainers, which is also why the trainers make less money at LA Fitness hourly, because you're doing, there's a chunk of work that's you're not doing. But it appealed to me because I was like, I don't want to be a salesperson. I'm not, never going to be associated with that. And actually, my dad is the one who helped me kind of realize this. My parents owned a pet store while I was growing up. And, I used to sell stuff at the pet store constantly. We'd have customers walk in and they were like, which dog food should I buy? And it's like, well, we've got this brand, this brand, this brand. They're like, well, what about IAMS? It's like, well, we actually don't carry IAMS because IAMS has cornmeal in it, which can give your dog dandruff and it can cause them to like itch and scratch and stuff. I'm like, really? It's like, yeah. I mean, corn gluten's okay, but like corn in dogs it just doesn't go well together. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. And they're like, well, which one do you recommend? It's like, well, this one's really good. And like, we got this one. This one's my dog's favorite, and people are like, great, well, I'm going to go with this one. I'm like, awesome. Like I made a sale, never got commission, in fact, I made this is a true story, by the way. My parents paid me $3.50 an hour. Blind robbery. But yeah, like that's my dad was like, he's like, you used to do sales all the time. And it's like, well, yeah, I would help customers. He's like, that's what selling is, like, he's like, that's what you're doing. He's like, you got into, you get into the health industry to help people. You're doing the exact same thing right now. So it was kind of an interesting moment for me to kind of hear that, it was a very insightful Mark Thompson moment. But it is going to get like, you have to definitely get more comfortable with it. Just remember like what your career goals are, right? We're here to help people. All right, so big right hand turn here in the conversation. So now, and you can see this is so funny. We've got like 20 slides left. But these are going to move lightning quick, and I'm worried we're going to finish super early today. So the next thing we need to do, we need to determine what our desired income is. So if you are going to succeed and have a career, you need to be able to pay your rent, you need to be able to pay your bills, right? You need to buy food to keep those freaking muscles on your body. Like we got a lot of things to consider when it comes like financially. So and this is, again, if our goal is to like help as many people as possible, we need to be able to support ourselves, which means we need to have sort of a desired income in mind. Now you might be going, well, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, great. Like that's a great, desire. You need to figure out like what needs to happen in order for you to become, a millionaire. I never wanted to be a millionaire for years and years and years. I never wanted to be like an overly like wealthy person until I started doing more and more like charitable stuff in my life. And I realized I was not in a place to survive if I am too charitable. Like if I donate too much money to something, it hurts me for, I have to like, it hurts me for a long time. And then I have to like, scramble to even survive. And then I don't get to, help people again. And now that I'm older, I'm like, man, I would love to be a freaking millionaire. I'd love to be like wealthy because I think that I could do a lot of good if I was, and that's like a motivating factor now. So you guys are going to need to kind of consider like, where do you want to start financially and where do you want to grow financially, right? In order to achieve your like life steps, you know? So we've kind of got like a 10-step process here that we're going to talk about for how to determine your desired income, right? So you figuring out how many people you need to talk to, that's what we're trying to figure out, right? So this plan is kind of based on like your desired income, and this is a textbook answer right here. I think this actually might even be a homework question, but here's the first thing that you need to ask yourself. And actually we'll do a little class survey here is, how do you guys think you determine your session price? Let's class survey. Who thinks they got the answer to this? How do you determine how much to charge for your training sessions? How do you come up with your prices? Come on, guys, throw something out.
Maybe you might want to learn and compare competitive prices throughout, the area.
Love that. When it comes to your marketing plan, we call that competitive pricing. We talked about it on Friday. Good answer. Not bad. What else? Anybody else? How do you determine your prices? So this is the thing. This is what NASM's textbook answer is. And I actually really like this because it's like motivational, in its own way. So NASM has a different answer. Thomas, I actually really like your answer, and I think you are right. But I think that that is part of being right. NASM would argue that the best way to determine how much to charge for your services is to ask yourself, how much money do you want to make per year? And that's the answer. So it's like, okay, like I kind of get what they're going at with that, right? What is your desired annual income? That is going to help you determine what your prices are. Because if you have to make this much money in order to like survive and live, then you know that you have to charge this much for your services, or you need to work this many hours per week, right? And this is kind of the difference between being an entrepreneur and being an employee. If you guys ever get a chance, you want to read a really great book about like money and finance and wealth and stuff. There's a really great book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Love this book. It's really, really, really good. If you get a chance, guys, it's awesome. And it's about this guy who, when he was, his parents got divorced when he was a kid, and his mom remarried. And so he had, two dads ostensibly. He had his biological dad, who was historically very, very poor, and he had his stepdad, who was actually quite wealthy. And he talks about the difference that he saw in these two, like, important people in his life. And what he said is like his dad, who was not very wealthy, had the kind of mindset that a lot of people have, which is like, I go to work and that earns me a wage, and that's the wage that I live on. And, then I go to work again and I live off that wage, and that's the wage that I live on. Like he had the kind of a worker's mentality, where the other dad had a very entrepreneur mentality. He did not spend very much money. And it was like one of these, like, he's like, well, you have so much money, why wouldn't you spend it? He's like, because I'm going to use my money to, and make, more, use it in such a way that it's going to mean that I don't have to work. He's like, I don't want to work. And it's like, and you probably ask the other dad, it's like, well, nobody, wants to, right? And it's like, but you have to. And it's like, no, you don't. Not if you have like streams of revenue and wealth that are gonna, do the work for you. If you are offering like a service that, and so it's kind of an interesting thing. So it's a very cool book. It kind of changes your kind of viewpoint on sort of like how like money's purpose and like what, how it works and things like that. It's really, really good. Has anybody read that, by the way? Just out of curiosity. Nobody? Oh, Lorianne, I can see I feel like I see your thing lighting up like you're talking. If you just, I can't hear you if you are saying it.
I haven't read it, but I've heard of the book.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's so good. He's a good writer. No, like I'm not a big fan of reading financial books. Oftentimes, I find that they're just a little dry for me. But he's a good writer. He's a fun one. So you need to ask yourself, it's not about like how much money you need to make a living. Instead, ask yourself, how much do you want to make? Right? Like that's a more entrepreneurial version of that question. So step one, we're going to determine what your desired annual income is. Okay. So just for the sake of it, you can see I've got an example version up here in italics. The last time I asked somebody this, they said, well, let's say like, first couple of years of personal training, I want to make 60,000 a year. Okay, great. Like, yeah, I think we could dream bigger, but like, let's start with that, right? Let's start with that. So you need to ask yourself what your desired annual income is, right? This is how much you want to achieve over 12 months a year. Step two, you need to break that down per week. So if we assume that you want to make $60,000 in your of income per year, right? How many weeks are in a year, guys? 52, right? So to make math simple, and also because everyone in here should, you all deserve to take vacations. Let's say someone decides to take 2 weeks, paid vacation. So instead of dividing 60,000 by 52, assuming that you would have to work every single week, instead what we'll do is we'll divide it by 50. So annual income divided by 50. This is how much you need to earn per week, right? Because there are 52 weeks in a year and we assume 2 weeks vacation. So 60,000 divided by 50 means that you need to earn $1,200 per week. Like I said, it's 2 weeks vacation and it makes the math easy. So 60,000 divided by 50, $1,200 per week. So now we know we need to earn $1,200 per week in order to make a $60,000 annual income, right? So now you need to figure out, when it comes to your weekly income, how many sessions need to be performed every single week in order for you to earn that, right? So you take your weekly session and now you determine, well, how many hours do I want to earn per week? There's 2 ways to do this, right? You can flip this in 2 separate directions. You can look at like how much your gym is paying you per session. So let's say you earn $42 every single session, every time at your gym, right? If that's your level. If that's your level, if you're earning $42 per session, then we just need to take $1,200 per week and divide it by 42. That means that you need to work about 29 hours a week in order to make 60,000 a year. And that, I think 42, I'm trying to remember why we picked this number. I can't remember if that is what a student was earning. I think we had a student in class who, they had like an ACE certification. They were trying to get NASM. If John's the one that gave us this number, then that's where we got it from. Or this could be how much you make at Equinox. I'm trying to remember how I got to this number, but I guess it doesn't really matter. But that's okay. If you know how much you're earning per week or per session, you take your desired income and divide it, and there you go. Now you know that you need 29 sessions per week. Okay. Now there is another way to retool this. If you are working for yourself and you are trying to determine your prices, instead we're going to retool this and we're going to say, okay, I need to earn $1,200 per week. Now you can also ask yourself how many hours per week you want to work. Okay. Yeah, well, Bay, how many hours a week do you want to work? Throw out a number. Oh, I lost you. Hold on. Say it again. It unmuted for a second and then remuted. Uh-oh. Bay, can you hear me? You're still muted.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I can hear you. Yes, I can.
How many hours a week do you want to work?
Oh, I don't know, 35.
35. Love it. All right. So if you want to earn 60,000 a year, which means you need to earn 1,200 per week, then we divide that by 35 hours. You need to charge at least $34.28 for your sessions. If you charge that and you train your 35 hours a week, there you go. You are making $1,200 a week. So that's another way. So now we just determined your prices. For the record, you can get way more than that. And that means you can work way less than 35 hours a week. But there it is, right? That's how we do this. So we take our annual income. Now, Thomas, like we said, everybody, that's how much we just figured out our session prices, right? But we also have to consider, it's like, do you think we can get 35 sessions per week? Like that's a lot of clients. Well, let's move on to step 4 and let's take a look at and figure out, okay, well, how likely is it that we can train that many people? So now step 4, we're actually going to look at we call it your closing percentage. Okay. So to determine your closing percentage, we're going to kind of leave the money side of things. We're going to leave it over here for just a second. We'll come back to it in a minute. Well, your closing percentage is how often you are talking to potential customers versus the number of people who have become paid customers, right? So it's like the difference between like a lead versus a client, right? Like a lead, like if somebody told me that Dalen was interested in, he was like somewhat interested, and it's like, here's his contact information, right? It's like, that's a lead. I don't know Dalen, like I haven't talked to him yet, but I do have his contact information and he expressed some level of interest, right? So when I call him, if he decides to sign up for personal training, great, now he's a client. But as of now, he's just a lead, right? So we're going to determine the total number of people that you talk to versus the number of people who actually became clients. So let's say you spoke to 20 people, and out of that 20, 3 of them signed up for personal training, which, by the way, this would actually be pretty freaking awesome. That's a pretty good number. So every 20 people you talk to, you're going to average, your average closing rate is 3 divided by 20, which gives you a closing rate of 15%, right? So 3, right, 0.15, that's a 15% closing rate. So, 15% of the time, when you talk to people, they sign up for personal training, right? Now, just because we want to keep the math really simple here, guys, and this is totally not how it would go in the real world. But let's say every single client we're talking about only does 1 session per week. Most people are going to do, depending on how much they're willing to kind of train, 2 sessions per week, 3 sessions per week, whatever. I've had 5 sessions per week with clients before, where it's like you're just there with every morning, and it's like, let's do it, and that's how much accountability they need, they are a Monday through Friday client sometimes. But for the sake of our example here being sort of a worst case scenario, where you only get 1 session out of every client per week, let's say Bay just said that she's going to want to work 35 hours a week. So if she's closing 15% of the time, right? Every time she talks to 100 people, she's going to have 15 new clients, right? So she needs to talk to about 225 people. I was a little off on my math here. 230 times 0.15. Yeah. So 34.5. That's where we're at. So she needs to talk to about 230 people with her 15% closing rate, and that will net her 34.5 sessions per week, right? There's her clients, right? That's her client list. If she's closing 15% of the time. Now, if she was closing 10% of the time, she would need to talk to more people. If she's closing 20% of the time, she'd have to talk to less people. And honestly, if I'm, again, being truthful, guys, you will need to talk to less people than this in order to get the right number of sessions. There's no world, there really is no world where every single person is only signing up for 1 per week. 1 per week is very common, but it's not the only type of client you're going to get. So So there we go. Now that we figure out what our closing percentage is, right? The number of people we talk to versus the number of people who purchase training. We move on to step 5, which is, all right, now we need to give ourselves a deadline. We need to give ourselves a specific deadline. Andres, Dalen, you guys will remember this from a couple mods ago, where we talked about how deadlines are a super effective tool to give yourself, to make you motivated to actually do something and achieve your goals. Lorianne, Bay, Thomas, we have we call it exercise psychology. That's the name of the class. But it's all about like effective behavior change. And we talk about SMART goals. And when we're talking about SMART goals, which is an acronym for a way to write effective goals, one of the things you want to do is you want to have timely goals, time-bound goals. You give your goal a deadline. So rather than say, I want to quit smoking, you would say, I want to quit smoking by June 30th, right? So you give yourself a deadline. We react to deadlines very, very well. And we watched this fun video. I'll show it in class one day, all about like procrastination and why we sort of procrastinate and the ugly side of it and stuff. But you need to, step 5, give yourself, estimate what time frame it's going to take you to get these 35, if you're these 35 clients or however many, right? So set a goal that has a specific end date in mind for you to do this, right? So let's say you can kind of see our example version here, right? Once you give yourself a deadline, you're just going to set that deadline, step 5. Step 5 is really simple, right? Let's just say, we will say our deadline is August 31st, right? So there's our deadline. We have till August 31st in order to get our 35 clients. It's going to be pretty freaking easy. That's actually, that I would argue that deadline is too easy. It's too far away for this example, at least. So once you set your goal, give yourself a specific end date, we move on to step 6, which is going to be, how many people do you need to talk to in that given time frame? So you can see, right, if we take the desired number of clients and we divide that by the number of our closing percentage. So we desired 29 sessions per week, right, in this example, and we have a closing percentage of 15%. So that's going to be times 0.15. Oops, that's not true. Sorry, 29 divided by 0.15. And that means that we need to talk to 193 people. If Bay was if we were using that as our example, we wanted to have 35 sessions per week. If she's got a, let's say 10% closing rate, right, divided by 0.1, then she needs to talk to 350 people by, God dang it, August 30th, right? That was it. August 31st. I kind of skipped forward a little bit. So that's our step 6, right? How many people do you need to talk to? So now you can break it down. You'll see I actually skipped through steps. We kind of skipped from step 6 straight to step 9 here. And it's because now NASM is going to get really, really specific here. Me personally, I've never had to actually break it down like this. I think this actually, in a weird way, gets a little too specific. And you guys know how much I love being specific, but this is going a little overboard. So now in step 6, right, now that you know exactly how many people you need to talk to, you can figure out how many people per week that is in order to like reach that. So if Bay needed to talk to 350 people and we have until August 31st, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks to get that done. So we divide 350 by 12. That means we need to talk to 29 people per week. 29 potential customers per week in order to, with our 10% closing average, get our 35 hours a week, right? Now you can also break that down into how many people need to be contacted each day. So how many days per week are we working? Let's say Bay's working at a gym where she works Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. She says take Wednesdays off. So we divide our 29 people per week. We divide that by 4 days per week. She needs to talk to 7.29 people a day. So between 7 and 8 people a day, right? Then we can break that down even further. Like I said, this gets a little bit too specific for my tastes. So now that you know how many potential people need to be contacted each day, now you can break that down per hour. So for each people, in your contact hour, let's say you're working 5 hours a day, right? You need to talk to 7 people per day. You divide that by 5. You need to talk to about 1.5 people every hour. That's actually not so bad, right? If you think about it, let's round that number to 2, just for the sake of it. You can talk to 2 people per hour. Now here's the thing. You're gonna be training your clients, so you might not actually be able to pull that off. So now this is something NASM doesn't address. This is another reason why I actually don't put steps like 7 through 8 up there. Because like one thing they don't account for is it's like, this is kind of assuming that you're just doing sales your whole shift. That's not true, right? Like oftentimes you'll have a 6 a.m. appointment, a 7 a.m. appointment. Maybe you don't have like an 8 a.m. appointment, so you have an open hour. And you have like a 9 a.m. and a 10 a.m. and an 11 a.m. Right? Well, now you have one free hour, so if you need to talk to 7 people, hopefully you've been gathering contact information over the week. You have an hour to call 7 people. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily think this works very well, but at the same time, when you are new, you have a lot of open hours because you don't have clients yet. And as you are more developed, that's when you have less hours. So in order to figure out this is where, again, you break down, you talked about in this example, about 2 people per hour throughout the course of your shift in order to, fill up that appointment book, the way we want to. And this is our guide to 60,000. Again, like, depending on where you work, those numbers are going to shift. Depending on how much you want to charge, those numbers are going to shift. Depending on how many hours per week you want to work, those numbers are going to shift. You are determining all of these, but I love that, right? Like that's the entrepreneurial spirit that NASM is trying to instill in everybody. I know, like, we live in the US. It's like, how many hours a week you're supposed to work? It's like, I'm supposed to work 40 hours a week, like 9 to 5, right? Like, we've kind of been conditioned like that. But it's like, what if you can make the same income and only work 20 hours a week? Sounds like a pretty freaking good deal to me, right? You determine your session prices. You determine how many hours per week you want to work, right? So now back on track here. We get into step 9. So step 9 is where, okay, now we're going to kind of try to kind of close our sale, right? So every time, guys, ask for contact information, okay? Ask for your client's contact info. So you can always offer exercise assistance at a later date if you can get back in touch with this person, right? Once you've built a good level of rapport and this person trusts you, you've been walking the gym floor, you've kind of, showed yourself as an authority in the gym, right? This is why, like, I do tell people, you should be re-racking weights at your gym. You should be working out at your gym. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I want to be 100% transparent here. I actually don't often work out at the gyms that I work at, because there's again, talking about like, the value built into it. The value is that I would make more sales, but I do pretty well whenever I'm working in a gym and make enough sales as it is. So the value of that actually isn't high enough for me to change my opinion. And I like, I like to work out somewhere else because I like to have like my work life and my personal life separated. So but my advice to you and my advice to me, if I cared more about like, making more of those sales, would be to 100% work out at the gym that you work at. That way, like when you are working out and you're being a good example, people are going to go, wow, like they're pushing a lot of weight, or they're going to go, wow, that's a really fun exercise. I would love to be able to do something like that, right? Like you want to inspire people. You're building your authority, right? Another thing you should always be doing while you are there, right? You should be racking weights in between sessions, right? You should be cleaning up the gym floor. Again, like that's showing that you are, you care about this place that you work, and you care about like the members and their safety and things like that. Again, it builds your authority, right? So if you're working the gym floor and you're talking to people and you're meeting people and stuff, right? Now that you have sort of like built your authority, and you open a conversation with someone, and you're building rapport with them, asking them personal questions, figuring out what their goals are, and you offer to say like, hey, let's set up like a fitness assessment, right? You're gonna get their contact information. That's the most freaking important thing. You can't get in touch with someone. Do not make the mistake of going, yeah, so like, reach out to, go to the front desk and set up an appointment for like a fitness assessment with me. Do not put it in their hands. Get their contact info so that it's in your hands so that you can follow up. Because people might be motivated in the moment, and then they might lose that motivation, or they might get overwhelmed because they don't know what steps they're supposed to take, or any number of things can happen. Get their contact info. I cannot stress that enough. That is something that like is true of every gym you work at. Your boss will tell you the same thing everywhere you work. They'll always say how important it is to get contact information. And then step 10 is almost not even part of sales officially. It's what happens after the conversation you've had. You should follow up, right? Within 24 hours, you should send either an email or give a phone call, or it's getting weird in this world now. Text messages are slowly becoming like a thing. I still think text messages are just like a personal thing. Like I don't want text messages from like salespeople. I don't know. I'm old fashioned, but within 24 hours, follow up, phone or email. I got a text message from the guy who was coming to fix like the freaking internet the other day. I was like, what? Ugh, weird. So within 2 to 3 days. Now, let's say you did like your fitness assessment. You should also be following up within 2 to 3 days. Here's the thing. Ideally, at the end of your fitness assessment, you should be pivoting right into your sales talk. You're not doing your fitness assessment and saying, great job today, see you later, right? You're ending your fitness assessment with, here's what we found today. Here's what this means. Here's a training package. This is what I want to practice with you guys on Wednesday, actually. When we meet in person, we're going to go through sort of a mock fitness assessment, and then sit down afterwards and be like, pivot that assessment into our sales pitch, right? But you should be, generally you're going to have like that conversation. They're going to go, okay, well, I need time to think about it, right? If they say something like that, that's the 2 to 3 day follow-up that we're talking about, right? Within 48 to 72 hours. Or honestly, better than that, within 24 hours. 72, by that point, it's pretty cold. So let them know that, like, in that email, in that text message, in that phone call, let them know that, like, again, you are still here to enhance their experience, and you think that it would be a really great step for them to, like, move into personal training, and you are going to try to schedule that appointment as quickly as possible, right? Try to implement a couple of the exercises that you might have talked with them, right? Tie it to like their goals. Look for those sessions, right? The gym, I used to work at a gym, and for those of you who are thinking about working for yourselves, let me see if I can actually find this. Let me see if I can find this stuff here. I don't know if they'll have this on their website. Oh, actually, plans and pricing information. I think these are just gym memberships. All right, let's go to personal fitness, personal training. This is such a classic thing. Like they don't. Okay. Actually. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So take a look right here, guys. This is really cool. So here's how much their private training costs, right? One session is going to be $70. 6 sessions goes down to $396. 12, right? The prices go down. 30-minute sessions are here. So you can actually see, right, these prices kind of shifting and stuff. They have partner training, they have duo sessions, they have small group training. This is was it up to 3 to 4 people. They have team training, which is this team training is this kind of interesting thing that they do at this gym. It's still small group training. It's just there are these like set specific time group exercise classes. Online coaching is new. I didn't know they had that. But here, right here, this specials thing. For those of you who are going to be your own business, your own entrepreneur, this is something this gym had that a lot of gyms didn't, that I'm a huge fan of. I thought this was so brilliant. Take a look right here. They have these new member specials. Now, this new member special is something that everyone gets, right? And what it is they get a 30-minute orientation, and then they get a personalized program by a trainer. And then they create this thing. Now, this was not something that the trainers did. This is something that the front desk did. This is the intro to the free assessment thing, right? So what that means is, like, at the gym, when they sign up for a gym membership, the front desk or the sales team would say, okay, you have to, there's this group session, and this was a group session where they would get a 30-minute orientation and like 5 or 6 people. So I had to always block off 2 hours a week, like Mondays in the morning, and I think it was like Thursdays in the afternoon or something, where I would do these 30-minute orientations. So I would come in, I'd have my appointments built around it, and I would have an hour where I wouldn't get my normal train. I wouldn't be able to book any appointments during that hour. No client was allowed to, I had to have that hour open. And I would do these group orientations where new members would come along. Then you can see here, they have a $99 intro to PT, which was a 90-minute personal training session, or 90 minutes broken into 2 to 3 sessions. That's new. That wasn't something they did. Where they would basically get together with a trainer and do like a fitness assessment and get a personalized program. Ooh, good Lord, that is a huge spider. I'm keeping an eye on you before this. Actually, hold on. Give me a second, guys. I want to make sure this guy doesn't run off on me. I don't feel like getting a random spider bite in the middle of the night. Come here, little guy. All right. So that's a $99 thing now. A little different than how we used to do it. But here we go. This is what I really like. They have this intro to PT offer. It's $149, and they get 150 minutes. It's broken into somewhere between 3 and 5 sessions. That means 1 30-minute session and 2 60 minutes, or 5 30-minute sessions, whatever it was, right? And it was a much cheaper rate. Let's say that's just 5 30-minute sessions, right? That's 5 sessions for $149. You go to their regular prices over here. Normally 30-minute sessions are $46 a piece, right? So that means that, like, they're getting 5 sessions for 30 bucks a session, right? And so it's like, this is a really good introductory way to do this. And so then it's like, hey, if you're nervous about, like, purchasing like a full-on package, you can start with this version here. which will allow you to kind of feel what it's like to kind of get the one-on-one training and see if you're much more comfortable doing it later. This is something that like I implemented into my own business whenever I do personal training, like private training. That's something that like I absolutely like implemented as well, where it's like maybe you're a little nervous about the pricing and stuff. Maybe you're a little nervous about the commitment. Why don't we do this very small package? It has to be used within 60 days. We have to burn through these sessions within 60 days or they will expire. But it'll give you an opportunity to kind of feel like what it's like to get the custom, interaction consistently, right? This is a little bit different than how they used to do it. Now it looks like they're just breaking it's 150 minutes into like 30 and 60-minute sessions. It used to just be you could get 3, and then there was a 3 package version and a 5 package version. I think keep it simple like that. I don't know about this minutes based thing. I would say like offer a small package that is outside, and 3 to 5 are numbers. This is also really smart that they used to do. Notice how everything else is sold in units of 6. So it was something that like, or units of 8. It was something that like really didn't fit with, how they were actually like offering their normal packages. And that was very smart as well. So if I got like an orientation, I would then sign that person up for a fitness assessment, which was free. We would give them the fitness assessment. And then at the end of the fitness assessment, I would pivot the conversation into my sales pitch, right? I would say, all right, so here's what we learned about during your fitness assessment. Cardiovascularly, you're doing great, but we do see these postural distortions. So when we work on a program, what I want you to focus on are, exercises like the floor bridge, exercises like the bird dog. The plank is really good and it's really, really popular. Like we love planks, but for you, I would instead do like a plank with alternating leg raises. It's a little bit harder and it puts a little bit more pressure into your glutes instead of your abs. I know we all want core strength, but your core strength is actually really good. We need to focus on your glute strength, right? Like I'm just making all this up as if it's like a fake person, but do you see how like the conversations focus, right? And I would write all these things down and build them like a scratched out program and then say, so here you go. And honestly, guys, like when people get that, they're like, this is a lot of really valuable information, but it's almost so much information. I'm not sure I know how to do this on my own. And it's like, well, if you're nervous about how to do it, we do offer personal training. If you're interested, we have 6 sessions available for this. And if I can tell they're like not feeling it, it's like, well, what about this introductory rate? And so then we offer them the smaller, package that isn't, one of our regular packages. Do you see how, like, we see what we're talking about? This is what we're going to practice this on Wednesday. We're going to kind of take you guys through this. So that's asking for the sale. Now, if your client, like, and for the record, like a lot of people are going to say no. 9 out of 10 people are going to say no. But even with a 10% closing rate, guys, you've got plenty of room to build a successful personal training business. If you're closing 10%, that's fine. If you're closing 5%, that's fine, right? Like you want to work 35 hours a week, you want to make 60,000 a year, and you're charging like $40 a session. You got to talk to about 600 people based on all the math we figured out today. Maybe you want to make twice as much as that. Maybe you want to make $120 a year or $120,000 a year, right? Well, then you're going to need to talk to 700 people and you're going to need to work too many hours. Now we need to raise our prices, right? All of it can kind of be mathed out, whether that's you working at a gym with set prices that you don't get to control. You can still figure out how to make as much money as you want to make until eventually there gets to be a point where it's like, this place doesn't charge enough. I'm not able to make how much I want to make here, even though I'm working plenty of hours, I'm closing plenty of sales. Now it's probably time for you guys to go into business for yourself, where maybe you can still, people are going to charge, you're going to charge the same amount for your sessions, but you're going to keep a larger chunk of the profits. And that's where this is why NASM wants to kind of foster this entrepreneurial experience, right? You guys are going to do great working in a place like 24, working in a physical therapy clinic, working as like a nutrition coach. You guys are going to do great in all those settings. But eventually, like if you want to work for yourself, we want to make sure you guys have the tools to be able to do that. Now, if your client says yes, and you close the sale, process that payment right away. We don't want to have like a situation where, someone says, great, I'm into it. And then we invoice them later and then they don't pay for their training. Process that payment as quickly as possible. And then, and this is absolutely key, schedule your first appointment, get it on the books as quickly as possible. Do not say, great, we got you signed up for training. I'll give you a call later today to set up your first session. Don't do that. Or, and even worse than that, don't say, give me a call later and we'll set up your session. Number one, again, that puts it in the client's hands and people procrastinate. People forget. Do not leave it up to your client. Reach out to them or set it up in that minute. And then so you confirm that first appointment, give them a call before that first appointment to ensure that they're going to show up. People need reminders, guys. So just send them a quick reminder saying like, hey, tomorrow at 8 a.m. we've got our first session, right? 24 hours before. And then congratulate them on taking the first step to meet their goals, Now, if they do say no, remain professional, remain helpful. They could potentially become a customer later down the road. So you don't want to burn that bridge and say something that, you're going to regret. Thank them for participating in, your whole, assessment process. Hope, wish them the best that they're going to meet their goals. And you can always reach back in a couple of weeks. Generally, guys, my rule of thumb, once you've got their contact information, you can send them an email in 30 days to see how it's going and see if, you want to reconnect. Send them an email in 60 days, again, to see how it's going. Send them an email in 90 days. If you still don't hear anything back after 90 days, then in my opinion, that, that person becomes what we call a cold lead. That's, chances are they're really not going to sign up. But generally I follow that principle, the 30, 60, 90 rule. 30 days I reach out. If they're still not interested, that's fine. 60 days, it was just an email. 90 days, it's really not that much work to send out a simple email just saying like, hey, hope things are going well. If you had any questions, I'd love to answer them. So when you're asking for the sale, if you, if this person showed like some type of interest, you should follow up within like, 2 weeks you should be following up right away. But like, let's say like you're going to schedule something and it's like, hey, I want to schedule like our first session. Schedule your follow-up call or session or whatever within 14 days. And then, like I said, within every 30 days, send them something related to their goal, just a follow-up email. You should always be following through on all of your tasks, and you should always, always, always be keeping a book of business is what we call it. A book of business is your list of contact information for your clients so that you can continually reach out to them. So make sure you're working the floor, meet your customers, build rapport, build relationships, and then, this is sort of the process here. For the record, I know today it was like a lot of numbers. It was a lot of numbers and a lot of like, doing math and stuff. You're not gonna be tested on that, guys. They won't do that to you. That would be insane. But the things that they might ask you questions about is it's like, how do you determine your annual income? Or how do you determine your session prices? And it's like, well, you need to first figure out what your annual income is. That's the first step, right? You need to figure out how much money you want to make before you can ever figure out how much you're going to charge, So there is sort of that's the type of questions they might ask you. How quickly should you follow up with someone, right? Within 24 to 48 hours. Yeah. Any questions today, guys? That was went a little longer than I was expecting. That's good. Base feeling good. Thomas, Lorianne, Dale, and Andres, how you guys feeling?
I'm good.
I'm good.
You can actually hear me now, Brad?
Now I can hear you, Dalen. Yeah. Lorianne, you feeling good? All right. Well, guys, that is about everything I got for you. Let me kill the recording here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.